Hi, welcome back to my FSY. This is a level 1 energy video during which we're going to look at some of the key foundational poses in the whole yoga practice. And those are the standing poses. My teacher told me at one point that your first 5 years of yoga should be spent really learning the standing poses. And then your next 5 years should be spent trying to explore other things. And that 5 years after that, you'll come back to the standing poses and realize that you missed some pieces because they're so fundamental. Your legs, obviously, are the base of your structure, and so misalignments in your legs are refracted all the way up through the rest of your body and can cause compensations and misappropriations of tension that really can be such a relief when the legs are functioning properly. So the point of the standing poses is to get the legs more properly aligned and to have adequate tone and flexibility in them. Start standing in mountain pose with your feet hips width apart. As you do that, you probably just come into whatever your habitual stance is, either more weight on one leg, or you might, it's very common for people to have their feet turned way out. Stand in this position, feet hips width apart, toes aim straight forward so the outside edges of your feet are parallel to each other, and stand evenly on both feet. Not just on your favorite foot. Stand evenly on the 2 feet, which sounds pretty simple. Sounds pretty simple, but most of us don't do it all that well or all that consciously. So you take a moment to stand consciously. How about the feet? It's also novel sometimes that we are doing this practice barefoot, so we can operate the feet to their full capacity. And if you're used to doing athletic activities in running shoes, just going barefoot will be new for you. And so if you take a look down at your feet, now that you've organized them to be straightforward, try lifting all 10 toes up off the floor. Keep them lifted and notice how that exposes the roots of your toes, the pads of your toes. It exposes them and they'll feel more prominent in the floor. See if you can push down in the roots of your toes and at the same time lightly soften the toes themselves down to the floor. So your feet feel strong. Your feet feel strong, especially in the roots of the toes. Without pushing your teeth together, push your heels down into the ground. And it's not so much a muscular thing as much it is just letting the heels settle down. Feel both the heels and the roots of the toes making good contact with the floor. And from that nice foundation of your feet, begin to lengthen up. Lengthen up along the sides of your waist. Up and up and up and up. Again, seems simple, but just standing well, articulating your feet starts to give a feeling of lightness, a lightness in the waist. One more key piece to standing. Hook your thumbs under your armpits like this. As you lift the front of your armpit chest up. Careful, now don't lift your shoulders up. Just lift the front armpit chest up. You'll notice that your shoulder blades firm onto your back and that your chest feels nice and open. So you've got your feet as your foundation. You've got the length of your waist, and that feels like a celebration. Wow, my back doesn't feel so heavy anymore. And you've got this last part, this open chest. Nice and open chest. Release your arms down to your side and now walk your feet out wide to a healthy, wide stride. How wide should we go? In my estimation, the best stance is to have your ankles underneath your wrists. So if you can look down side to side and verify that they're more or less under your wrists, then you have a good, nice, broad base of support. Obviously, if you're too wide, you'll feel like you're going to fall over, and if you're too narrow, it's really difficult for your body to lengthen in these standing poses. So Once more, ideal stride would be your ankles underneath your wrist. From there, put your hands on your pelvis. Turn your left toes in just slightly. And turn your right toes all the way out. Now, for reasons I just explained, the feet might be a little bit far away from your thinking. So look with your eyes and make sure that your right toes are aimed toward the short side of your mat. Look down at your left toes, make sure they're turned in just a little. Then start to bend your right knee. Bend your right knee and track it directly over your ankle. In the beginning, right, it might be nice to look at the video, but then also keep looking at your own body and seeing that alignment of the bones, your knee directly over your ankle. From there, center your torso between the two legs. So it's not just your bent leg that's becoming more energized and working. It's your straight leg. Your straight leg also feels like it's participating. 2 breaths in this shape. Simple enough. And then release. Straighten your right leg. Turn your feet back to parallel, meaning the toes aim straight forward. Then turn your right toes in just a little, and your left toes all the way out. Same deal. Look at the foot. Make sure the foot is well aligned. If the foot's off, then really everything above it starts to get tweaked out. So it starts with the feet. Then begin to bend your left knee. I like to look at it as I'm bending it when I'm trying to be mindful of my alignment, because sometimes the knee has a wayward spirit and it'll go into the side. Keep it aligned directly over your ankle. And then just notice if your torso is already going along with that bent leg. See if you can center it between the two legs and feel into your back foot. Feel into that back foot. Now see if you can feel into both feet. It's almost like rubbing your belly, patting your head at the same time. You feel your left foot, you feel your right foot. You're still breathing in this simple shape. And you've centered your torso between your two strong legs. Straighten the left leg, come all the way up, turn your feet back to parallel. One more time, from parallel, left toes in slightly, right toes all the way out. Bend your right knee, track it directly over the ankle. Then, remember what we did in standing mountain pose? You hook your thumbs under your armpits, and you lift the front of your armpit chest up. You feel into both feet to sense their strength, their stability. And from the lift of your armpits, you start to feel that lightness, light, long waist. Now for the full expression of Warrior Two, you just extend your arms out wide to the side. If you're practicing along with me, looking at the screen, sure, you can take a peek at the basic shape of it. But eventually, you want to direct your gaze over your right fingertips. And breathe, of course. In the practice of Hatha Yoga, it's really posture, which we're detailing now, and breath. Those are the main focal points. Release. Hands on hips. Straighten your right leg. Turn your feet back to parallel. From parallel, turn the right toes in slightly. The left toes all the way out. Again, bend your left knee till it comes directly over the ankle. Center your torso between your strong legs. Hook your thumbs under your armpits to give a little lift. Remember, not in your shoulders or your eyebrows. To give a little lift to your chest. So your waist feels long, your legs feel strong. Keeping the openness of your chest, extend your arms out wide to the side. So we call it Warrior Two, Virabhadrasana 2 in the Sanskrit, although you don't have to know their original names. Don't have to know their original names to feel how wonderfully energizing these standing poses are. You feel more blood pumping through your legs. And you feel the bones of your legs giving this, it's a lightness, the best way I can describe it, a lightness to your torso. Release, hands on hips, straighten your left leg, turn your feet parallel. Walk your feet back to hips width apart for mountain pose. And just feel the effects of that one. That you might be standing a little more evenly on both feet. And you might already just be a little taller. Yeah. So as funny as, or as much as we'd like to think yoga is about big dramatic back bends like Cirque du Soleil back bends, really it's the simple poses that are the essential properties of them. This centeredness, this groundedness that you get from Warrior Two. Walk your feet out wide again. How wide? You take your ankles all the way underneath your wrists. Bring your hands to your pelvis again. Then turn the left toes in slightly, the right toes all the way out, all the way out. Same as we did before, you'll bend your right knee till it comes directly over the ankle. Only now, lightly rest your forearm on your thigh. It's very common to collapse on that thigh, especially if you're feeling like, whoa, this is kind of a lot of work, my legs are tired. You might collapse. Do your best to reinvigorate the grounding of your right foot, to feel the length of your waist like you just had in Warrior Two, and let it be light, like you could hang out there all day with your forearm on your thigh. And just feel this shape of the pose. We call this the side angle pose. Your leg is bent. Your torso is now going along with that bent leg. And yet you're still trying to feel into both feet for the length they convey to your spine. Inhale, come all the way up to standing. Turn your feet back to parallel. Then your right toes in slightly, and your left toes all the way out. Bend your left knee till it comes directly over the ankle. Lightly, so as not to commit or collapse. Lightly rest your left forearm on your thigh. And so how many times during the day do you do this, right? You bend over to pick up the laundry basket or something. And you kind of collapse down and have all sorts of strain happening in your neck or your arm. And a lot of, it's kind of funny, but a lot of shoulder and neck strain is a result of not using the legs properly. So you're finding that you're restoring the function of the legs in the standing poses by grounding those feet and growing your spine. Come all the way up, back to the first side. Always go through parallel first, then turn your left toes in, your right toes out. You bend your right knee. You lightly rest the forearm on the thigh. For the full expression of side angle pose, stretch your left arm over your ear. Keep searching for better contact in both feet. Better contact in both feet while you breathe, and it's very common for your breath to go a little quicker. But when you mind yourself, just let it flow. You find you have more and more stamina. And the strength of those two legs keeps propelling the length of your spine. Icing on the cake, turn your chest open just a little bit to the sky. And then come all the way up. Hands on hips, parallel your feet, to right toes in slightly, to left toes all the way out. Bend your left knee. Very lightly rest your forearm on your thigh. For the full expression of side angle pose, extend your right arm over ear through the sky. And so I always like to think of this one too, like a baseball pitcher. If the pitcher was pushing off the rubber of the pitcher's mound, that's really where his velocity comes from. Not just from what he's doing with his arm, but from this integration of the legs through the spine into the reach of the arm. Turn your chest open to the sky a little bit. And then come all the way up to standing. Turn your feet parallel. Walk your feet to hips width apart. Find standing mountain pose. Strong feet. Long waist. Open chest. For the last one we'll do in this standing pose sequence, it would be highly recommended for you to have a yoga block. If you don't have one, no big deal. I can show you another way to practice it. You walk your feet out wide to our same stride. How wide? Ankles underneath your wrists. If you have your block, put it directly behind your right heel. Then go back to hands on hips. Turn the left toes in slightly. Turn the right toes all the way out to face the short side of the mat. This one, which we call the triangle pose, you want to keep the legs straight. So instead of locking the knees, try lifting up, especially on your right kneecap. Lift it up so that it's straight and firm, but not locked. Then begin to spill your pelvis over that straight leg. Over that straight leg, and especially in the beginning, if there's some tightness in your inner thigh or your hamstring, you'll realize, that's about as far as I can go. Conveniently enough, you have a block. You have a block available to put your hand on. If not, don't worry. Hand on shin would be permissible. Yeah, so you just go hand here. You feel the length of both legs. Pump into your feet so you feel the strength of both legs. And lengthen your waist. So it's just like mountain pose, only a little different shape of the legs. Good. If you're using your block, bring it all the way with you to come up. Turn your feet parallel. Then your right toes in slightly. Your left toes all the way out. Set your block to the outside edge of your left foot. Hands to hips. Again, with legs that are straight. Lift the kneecap. Make the legs straight. Spill your pelvis to the left. To the left. And again, either hand on block or hand on shin. Tighter people tend to find that the exhales help their muscles to let go. Naturally flexible people tend to find that they need a little bit more strength in the feet, a little more pumping down in the feet. And so you kind of figure out which camp you fall into there. And then come all the way up, because you know we're doing it one more time. Turn your feet back to parallel. Then left toes in slightly, right toes all the way out. Again, if you're using a block, set it by the outside edge of your foot. Strengthen your knees by lifting up on the kneecaps. Spill your pelvis over that straight right leg and touch your hand down, either block or shin. Now the full expression of triangle pose would be to stretch your left arm up to the sky like so. And what a glorious pose this one is. That not only are the legs starting to open up, but now with your arms outstretched, your chest starts to open up. And so you take a few breaths, push down into your block hand or shin, and spin open your chest. Spin to open. Keep feeling into those feet. And then release it. Come all the way up, bringing your block with you. Turn your feet parallel. Then the right toes in slightly, the left toes all the way out. Set your block up first, then have your hands on your hips. And same deal, super important to make your legs straight. Start straight, you'll have less finagling once you get into the pose. So you start straight, you spill your pelvis over that straight leg, and you rest your hand on block or shin. Stretch your top arm up. Stretch up to the sky. Of course, if you do have some stiffness in the leg, your challenge might be to just keep working the knee straighter and straighter and straighter. So you find your exhales. You keep finding those feet in the ground. And Remember the icing on the cake. Turn your chest open. Open to the sky as you breathe 3 times. Inhale, come all the way up. Hands on hips. Turn your feet parallel. Walk your feet to hips width apart. And then as you get your feet aligned, like we started in mountain pose, simply spill your pelvis over those straight legs. Spill over. When you're a little tighter in the beginning, it's very helpful to have your hands touching a block. And that way you don't have to strain your back or overstretch your legs. Of course, you might notice that you can gradually reduce the size of your block. Or that maybe with those same dissolving exhales, maybe you can even remove your block. 3 breaths. Let the neck be soft, but keep your feet strong. 2. After 3, put your hands on the back of your pelvis. Push down on your tailbone and buttock flesh to lift up to standing mountain pose, where it all started. So you should feel, hopefully, more grounded in the feet, more centered in your torso. And kind of like our series, our level 1 strength series of down dog, this unusual combination of calmness in the brain, but alertness, vibrancy in the body, which again we would say is a hallmark of the balanced state that is yoga. So thank you very much for practicing with us. Till next time.